Sparking Change with Gigi, a show that aims to make the world a better place by bringing together authentic minds. This show encourages each of us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Get ready to be inspired and join us on this journey to create a brighter future for all.
Welcome everyone to Spark and Change with Gigi. I'm your host, Giovanna Tartarone, and today we have a wonderful show because we're going to be talking about money, right? Our favorite topic. And my guest today is Jessica Weaver. Welcome, Jessica.
Hi.
It's a pleasure to have you here. Jessica is the CEO and founder of the Wealth Boutique financial firm. She also has a TV show called Women Behind the Millions, and that's why this show is called what it's called. But the best part of this show is that you are all about leading with purpose. Like, you have a big mission and a big purpose to help educate women around the world. What does it really mean to have wealth? What is wealth, right? These are all questions that, we have to take a look at it from a different perspective. And I love the work that you do. So welcome to the show. And please tell us more about you and how did you get into this work?
Hello, Gigi. Thank you so much for having me on. Your intro was so relaxing. I just love the energy in your energy too. Let's see. How did I get into the financial industry? I was born into it. I had no choice. My father has been a financial advisor for about 40 years.
Yeah.
He was doing this job starting out when I was born. And I remember sitting on the carpet in the family room, watching cartoons, stuffing envelopes for him, doing these mailers regularly. And I did summers in his office. And back then it was filing, which was big, filing of paperwork, keeping everything clean. While I was in college, I decided to move forward and start to get my licenses, my securities licenses.
Okay.
When I graduated in 2010, I spent the summer finishing up my licenses and then dove right into the CFP board process, which is Certified Financial Planner. It's kind of like getting your master's, but in finance.
Okay.
Yeah, we sat down for a 2-day exam. My brother and I did it together. And I remember, Gigi, the second day of the exam was on St. Patrick's Day. And you had to go. It was at this hotel. So we sat there at the bar, had our Guinness. It was probably the best tasting Guinness I've ever had. Did a cheers and said, we hope we both pass, because you don't find out for 30 days back then if you passed or not.
I love that.
Fortunately, we both passed. Which was,
you put the intention out there, right? Think about this.
Exactly.
Like, you didn't even know you were doing that, but you put the intention out there. So it's a beautiful start to the story.
Yes. And it was great to have him as a study buddy too, I have to say. And to do that work, I always say this, before kids, before I didn't have a house yet, before all those responsibilities. So that was my attention. I was working full time, studying every night, and on the weekends, prioritizing to get it done. And we did. It was fantastic. So we started to work together as a team. It was my father, my brother, and myself. And early on, Gigi, I could notice that the women weren't speaking up as much in meetings. And I could see there was this dynamic. And then they would get home and they all of a sudden they had all these questions. Like, why didn't they bring them up at the meetings? What are we not doing to make them feel comfortable enough to get them to speak up? So I begged my father for several years, like, can I run events just for women? And I remember my first event, it was for women in transition. So we had women in the room that were retiring, going through a divorce, career changes, empty nesters, right? All these different transitions women go through. And we went around the room and everybody said why they were there and what's the transition happening in their own life. And it was the first time I was able to create that safe space for women to be vulnerable. I was like, that's the key. We need to be able to create spaces for women where they feel safe enough to share what they're going through, dream. So little time do they have to even think about their goals and what are these pressing things on their mind. what are these worries and concerns? Because I saw it being this huge roadblock to progressing with our clients and to get deeper. And I've learned over the years so much of what we do with people's wealth. It's like these external factors, their 401ks, their retirement plans, Social Security, taxes, but it all stems from within. It is the internal wealth I call that impacts our external wealth.
Beautiful. I was just going to say that, you allow them to open up with what's going on inside. Like, what's that inner voice telling them? What connection do they have to the world outside of them? Because as women, I'm sure you felt it. We kept our voices low, quiet to ourselves, right? And so you don't feel like you have a place because you're voicing what you feel inside. So I love the fact that you just said you open up this space to be vulnerable for them to open up with what's going on inside of us, because what we see outside of us is probably a reflection of what's going on inside of us. And I don't want to say it's probably, it is, right? From what we learn when we go into personal development, we understand that.
Yes, that mirror. And they don't realize it's happening. And that's what, the more we can see, what was your story growing up? I just had a text from a friend, frantic text, get these a lot, or emails, calls. That's it. I've had it. I've had it. Like, what's going on? And there was such a disconnect between her and her husband around money. And as we're talking about it, I was like, well, how did you grow up around money? And, the whole house almost went into foreclosure. She had to work from a very young age. She put herself through college, student loans, and that cycle of just trying to get by and having enough. He came from a household where only his father worked. He had a very successful dentist practice, and they paid for his college. So while he's very responsible with the money and budgeting, it's more of like a pastime for him. She has a very different background where, she wants to be able to enjoy the money she's earned for all the hard work that she's done. And she also has this underlying fear of not having enough. So two very different backgrounds with money. No wonder there was causing conflicts, because they weren't coming from a place of understanding for each other. So There's so much that goes into money. I think it's a more intimate topic than even somebody's sex life. Let's be honest. People don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And couples don't know how to relate with one another and really come from a place of grace and understanding, and, just being more compassionate.
And I love that, because it comes to relationship, right? Your relationship with money is exactly how you feel. And I promise you, when I heard this, I was like, cannot be true. No, it is true. It is true. Our relationship with money is directly linked to our family background, where we came from, the constant repetitive words that we were listening to when we were, growing up. And so it left an imprint on us. And so we act and believe based on our family heritage, and the belief system that we hold is truly the culprit, if I may say. It's the culprit of not allowing us to accept wealth in our life.
Mm-hmm.
It's acceptance. It's acceptance to say, no, we do deserve to be, to have whatever it is we want. And we can go after this goal, because 90% of the time we don't do what we love to do.
No.
Because we say we don't have the money to do it.
Yes.
And I think that's a big mistake, a huge mistake for us to view going after our purpose and stopping like what you came here to do because of something outside of us, and and it's called money. And I believe the relationship that we have with money affects every other relationship.
Yes.
Every other, with your home, with your family, with school, with work, with everything, with your health.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the health issues people are having, the fear of not having enough is causing them to get sick.
Yes. Yes, it impacts
And
every
do you see
single
that in
area
your
of our life. It ripples into, and if you're scarcity minded in one area of your life, it's going to impact your money and vice versa. So if you're scarcity on time, if you say constantly, I don't have enough time for this,
Yes.
that's going to impact your money. It's going to impact your relationships, right? It's very true, Gigi.
Yeah.
1000%.
Share a story if you don't mind, because I'm sure you have lots of women. You have a beautiful community, and you hear lots of stories of transformation. Like, when you took someone from this scarcity mindset to like now believing in herself that, yeah, she can achieve whatever it is that she wants to achieve.
Sure. I think the work we do with women going through divorce is a beautiful example of this
Mm.
because they've come to this big pivotal moment in their life. And oftentimes, one of the initial conversations we have with them is, what are your goals? And that question alone, you're like, I've never thought about that. And you
Right,
made this point earlier where we're not even thinking, we're not even allowing ourselves to dream, to desire, to
right.
want things. Or the moment we do, we say, I don't have time for that. I don't have the money for that. And you squash that dream. You immediately put a restriction on it, a limit on it as well. So we get them, what is possible? There, it's limitless, the possibilities. That's my next book is Limitless Wealth.
I love it.
Possibilities are endless for what you can do with this next huge moment in your life. Where it do. So we take them through it, but a lot of times they might not be that engaged with the money, know where the assets are. And on top of that, that stems so much of this resistance in themselves, the scarcity mindset, this fear. Am I going to be okay? Can I even afford to go through this divorce? So we bring in our certified heart healer, Alyssa Goman, and she takes them individually through a heart healing session, and she gives them an imprint that they listen to for about 30 days. And whenever they need it, it's there. It's theirs forever, but it's to do a new imprint on your subconscious mind. It takes into account this deep meditative state, some hypnosis, and rewind and forgiveness.
Oh, big one. I always talk
So, yep, you are a huge promoter of this, that when there's built up anger, resentment, that is very restrictive in our body. And the moment we can forgive, it just opens up those pathways. And even if they can't forgive maybe that person who did a lot of abuse to them, maybe they can forgive themselves for being in that relationship for the
right.
time that they were there, right? What is one little step to forgiveness that we can do, that a little bit of grace we can give ourselves?
Yes, I think it was Mel Robbins that she's always doing the TikToks, right? She wrote
Yes.
Let Them.
Yes. The let them theory.
Yeah, the Let Them theory. And she said, we have to come to an understanding in order for us to achieve peace, that
Mhm.
whenever there is a relationship that is not working out, to know that they did the best they could with what they had. It wasn't because they wanted to hurt you, it was because that's all they knew to do. Right.
Yeah.
So when you're using a different pair of lens to look at the people who created the traumas in your life, and then let go of that, because forgiveness is, like you said, for yourself.
Mhm.
Because, think of a closet full of hatred, and just consider those, the analogy of clothes. You keep putting, more clothes in that closet, and eventually it's going to get so stuffed you can't let anything in. So forgiveness is taking out the clothes out of that closet so you can put new clothes in that closet. I love that.
Yeah, creating space. Just that analogy feels more spacious and abundant and
Right.
open.
Right. And we get very creative, when we have that peace of mind. This is where the energy flows to be creative. And,
Mhm.
we mentioned the mindset, right? Mindset is everything. Mindset is 95% of what guides our life. So the mindset that we do have, we
Mhm.
have to do some inner work to transform the mindset about money. Because money's evil. That's what I was brought up to say. Money is evil. Only bad people have lots of money, and money, money's not evil. It's what people do with the money that makes it evil. And when we put money, before people, that is when the issues arise in every relationship, whether it is your relationship with your spouse, your relationship with your family. When money becomes the decision maker versus a soul, and I have to say it at this level because a lot of people don't understand that when they looking at a homeless person, and you say, oh, he deserved that or whatever he did to be there, and they're looking at not giving that man $1, it's very impactful. Like, I believe that, that person's coming to us to teach us a lesson. And right. So a lot of money struggles are being looked at just from a money side. It doesn't have, money is a byproduct. And I'm sure, you've heard that before, correct? When we say money is a byproduct of what we put out there.
Yes, exactly.
So it's not evil. It's actually an exchange of service that you give. I studied Bob Proctor's work, Napoleon Hill's work. And, from those teachings, it helped me to understand money is just money. We identify with it, whether it's negative or positive, and if it's good or bad.
Yeah, it's so true. And when you look at, we're not where we want to be, and like, how do we manifest the money into our bank account, right? Like, that's not it at all. It's, doing that inner work, doing the healing work, sitting, listening, and being guided. So living, as you mentioned before, with purpose, with passion. And then you'll find you're at a place where it doesn't even matter the money. And that's when the money tends to flow in. Right? It doesn't even matter how much money is in that bank account. And I feel like when you hit that, you're detached from the outcome, and it just starts to pour into your life.
Because it's your purpose that's bringing that money in.
Yes.
You're giving more of yourself to others in service. And so, of course, the byproduct of that is getting paid. But when you are speaking, I don't have enough, and you're speaking lack, your mind is so twisted. It can allow the ideas and the creativities to come in of what can you do to serve others to make more money.
Yes.
Right. And then, like you said, it becomes a trickle effect. So share with us your own personal story. So I know you said you worked with your dad, you stepped out. That must have been hard. I want to go back to that because you had to break the chain. You broke the chain somewhere along the line there.
Yes. So 3 years ago, after doing more and more work on women, I was realizing I need to be in a place where I can be in my creative state, that state of flow. And I was ready to move into really creating something beautiful, especially for women in the industry. We make up about 20% of advisors, and that number hasn't changed in 3 decades. 3 decades, 30 years, hasn't changed. So I launched the Wealth Boutique 3 years ago. It's a female-focused firm. We currently have, it's all women on our teams, advisors. We have 7 advisors in 6 different states across the United States. And since then, we've been able to really push out amazing educational pieces for women and create really this sisterhood. It's a community, it's family. Like, it really truly is a sisterhood. We've put out about a dozen books over the last few years, all around. It's all female authors, from investing in real estate to money, your legacy, your health, going through life changes like divorce. We currently have 2 TV shows that we produce: Care Conversations with Clarity, which is one of our advisors down in South Carolina, and then my own show, Women Behind the Millions. And we're gearing up for 2 more shows to join us here. And that's part of it, is women reconnect through storytelling and being able to create those vulnerable spaces that we talked about earlier. And that's through books and through these TV shows, we're able to create those spaces, those intimate spaces where it feels like you're just having a conversation with your girlfriend. but that girlfriend also happens to be an expert on the subject, is able to help and give you guidance. And if she doesn't know, she's got an entire team. We're very collaborative at the Wealth Boutique, where she's going to meet with them once a week to see, what am I missing? What else could we be doing? And we just keep leveling up women and their wealth on a regular basis. And it's been so beautiful. But I have to say, Gigi, when I was leaving my father's firm to launch the Wealth Boutique, at first I was just looking for myself to be able to be in this more creative space, doing more with books and the TV shows and whatnot. And all of a sudden, these women were like, I'm going to come with you. And this was God telling me, you need to create something bigger than just you, because it is going to be nationwide. And while those initial women didn't come with me, it planted the seed to create a nationwide platform that we wouldn't be restricted by location or size. We really could be able to grow.
Right.
And we've grown about 80% each year over the last 3 years. It's just been so beautiful. Even this year, we brought on 2 advisors, one in Texas and one in Florida, that we're onboarding right now. It's like you build it and they come. And they're coming. It's so nice, so beautiful.
So talk to us about maybe overcoming challenges, because I know whenever we're building a business, we're all going to face some challenges. It's not going to be an easy road, but what kept you going? What are some of the challenges and what kept you going? What kept you going?
Well, backing up, before I launched the Wealth Boutique, so in 2020, if we look back at that time of our lives, that was the COVID pandemic. I just had my second child, and my husband's is a first responder. So managing a 2.5-year-old, a newborn, and my husband, who's still exposed to COVID on a regular basis, and having crazy shift hours while running my business and trying to keep it going and growing as well, was really difficult. And then towards the end of the year, I was still part of my father's firm. He approached me and said, well, I think we're going to change broker dealers. And in our world, that's a long project. That's a 6 to 12 month overhaul of repapering everything, recreating all of it, so it's the same on the new system as well. So we started that process in the fall, going into 2021. And because I was part of his team still, his clients were prioritized with the transition, and I was doing my best to get my clients over the paperwork, everything that they needed. And I didn't have my own team at the time. I was plugged into his team. And I remember that winter of 2021 where I woke up in just sheer dread. What fires am I going to have to put out today? What issues are going to come about? It was straight survival mode. And I know at the time, Gigi, I was not a good wife. I was not a good mother. I was not even a good advisor. I was just trying to get by and survive. And I remember waking up one morning and thinking, I can't keep on this path. You're talking about symptoms, actual medical symptoms of it happening. And I could feel it. My neck gets tight. I get spasms. I can't move. I could feel it, the onset coming. So I woke up that morning and I took a breath. And I said, I can't keep going this way. I said, thank you, God, for this day. Thank you for blessing this day. And it was like this inner resistance was finally kind of released and I could breathe. And by doing that, a thought popped into my head. I need to hire somebody. Right? It's not like all the issues are going to go away.
Right.
But a lot of it's who, not how, right? Who I was at capacity. Who can I bring on my team to be able to help me navigate this? And that was my first hire, which was so pivotal, so huge. I know female business owners were very reluctant to hire. It's scary. It's not in our wheelhouse. And then you're thinking it's going to take me time to onboard this person. That's not always true. There are ways where sometimes you can plug into somebody who's already pretty trained. And that was the case I hired a virtual assistant who's already trained on the platform. And she came in and we just started to crank it out and get the things moving. And it was the first time that I started to create my own team and my own independence. If I hadn't done that, I probably wouldn't still be with my father's firm if I didn't make that first big step. So from there, I was able to start to really round out my team and get it growing how I wanted to grow it, which is another huge moment for women business owners is like, how do you want to lead a team? So many of our mentors are men, and my father was an amazing mentor, but there are traits that I wouldn't necessarily do because I'm a woman. So how do I want to lead, having that background, but wanting to bring in the divine feminine energy as well to it? And that, I think, was my biggest lesson in my first 2 years. And I feel like I'm finally starting to settle into it. I always have a ton to grow in, but that was the first 2 years the biggest challenge. Huge learning curves with everything, operating your own RIA.
Yes, but you also learn to surrender, right? It's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing because you said, okay, you know what? I know I cannot do it all.
Mhm.
Even though, in our mind, intellectually, we know we can try to juggle 1,000 things, but our body's like, no, we can't. And so I think your first step, if I'm understanding, is you're like, show me how I can make this happen. Give me some signs, God. And so the signs do come, the resource do come when we ask. And it came through a thought of hiring someone. But first you had to surrender to that. First you needed to ask for that help. And a lot of people just don't like to ask help, right? We want to do it all.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Even
Yeah.
during this time, which is looking back, it's so crazy. I signed up for this marketing campaign. So this company, they were going to put qualified leads on my calendar. That was the whole purpose, right? Right when I got that I hired that person. And they kept sending me female advisors. And Gigi, I'm like, why are you keep sending me these women? We're both advisors. I'm not gonna sell them a financial plan. But for some reason, God's like, get on the phone, get on the calls with these women. And I started to speak with them. And one advisor had just left her father's firm. And light bulb intuitions blowing up. That was the first time I thought, you can do that? She goes, this is how it went, where it was amicable, kind of divorce. I kept my clients, he kept his. And we split because we were going in two different directions and it was hurting the overall firm. So huge light bulb seed was planted. Then the next day I spoke with an advisor and she's like, I think you need to change your framework, based on where you want to go and your visions and everything, change your framework. Those back-to-back calls were exactly what I needed to hear.
Yeah.
So again, it's like you might not be getting the results that you initially wanted, but they are still there. There's a reason and a purpose behind them. And trust when you're feeling compelled to reach out to somebody or to get on a call or meet with someone, because you never know what's going to be created during those moments.
I think you literally just asked the next questions like, how do you push it through? Right? How do you push through when you're faced with these difficulties? And, you're saying getting into communities, get, other people to help you.
Yes. Yeah.
That's such a big one, right?
And that's why we've created this sisterhood, because so many female advisors, again, and this is across the board with so many different business owners, you feel like you're on your own island and you have all these emotions, these fears. You're not alone. There are other people going through exactly what you're going through. So being able to bring them together and validating what you're feeling and how do we shift? How do we, pivot from this limiting narrative to all that's possible over here? And you do that by coming together and creating, again, those spaces
Right.
we were talking about before. So yes, without my team, my direct team, and then the sisterhood of advisors and clients, I remember at one point, Gigi, I was so fed up with my old firm. And was nothing to do with my father, just the broker dealer. I remember just breaking down to my husband saying, maybe I'll just sell my business and do something else. Like that was my dark night of the soul. Like, falling apart, frustrated. And thank goodness for him, because he goes, you sold your clients on what you're building and you can't bail on them now. I was like, oh, you're right. I can't. We're going to find another way out. But I almost had to be able to let myself go there and know it was an option and realize that's not the option I want to take.
Right.
And it opened myself up to And what I currently do whenever we face a problem, and we meet weekly with my team to identify problems, even if they're not happening, what are potential risks, and troubleshooting them. And it's become like a hobby of problem solving.
Right.
And it's become
And,
so much fun.
yeah, and you know what? The problems get, easier and easier because
Mhm.
you're able to identify what's holding somebody back, right?
Oh, there you go.
So
Yes.
a new person comes into your community, you're like, oh, wait a minute, you need to speak to so and so because she went through the same thing. And right. So ultimately, now that I get it, now that I get it, ultimately, that is what we're here for. Like my experience in something is going to help someone else who's going to go through it, who's
Mhm.
next in line. It's like you take, yeah, a senior. I remember, when I was teaching middle school, you take a senior who came down to teach middle school students on how to do algebra, right? Because they went through it. They'd have easier way to figure it out, and now they taught someone else who now will become a senior and will teach another middle schooler. This is how our life works within every situation that we're on. So when we say leading with purpose, what you've done, and please stop me if I'm going in the wrong direction, but I believe what you've done is you've looked at, okay, this is how uh, financial firms deal with money, but they don't include women.
Mhm.
In a marriage, in a household, there's two. There's always two, right? So you've taken the other partner and you now are filling them with the education they need so that should things happen like divorce, because life happens, should things happen where, you know, stepping into a new job, you now have some resources. Like I'm sure you help people who transition from one job to another,
Mhm. Yes,
right?
all the time. Or leaving corporate world to launch their own business or retirement, which is a huge identity shift.
Yes, yes.
Building your career, saving money every paycheck to now you're gonna have to now pull the money out. I'm gonna pull too much. I have taxes. I got Social Security. So many variables.
Yeah.
And mhm.
And this whole part has been missing, in our communities and money. Nobody talks about money, right? Like nobody, money is like voodoo, but in essence, it's what creates a lot of issues for all of us who see as um, it's evil. And truthfully, is that we don't know. We're not educated
Mhm.
understanding on how money works. I know in going into personal development, it's like it's not time for money. That because we only have so much time, we're limiting ourselves. So how can you make money work for the money, right? Use your money to make money versus using time because time becomes a limited, a different lens, right? So do you also go through those teachings in your programs to help people understand how money, how they can really make more money from other sources than just time?
Yes. Yeah. You don't want it to be where you have to trade your time for money. We need to be able to have your money become its own ATM, right? It's creating its own wealth, generating its own wealth, and then ways to protect it as it continues to grow. And you're right. I truly believe we are bringing the divine feminine into the financial industry, which traditionally has been very male dominated, masculine energy, do it this way or no way, right? We're bringing in the healing side of it, the receiving, the surrendering side of it as well, which we do first, and then let's align with the right external vehicles to get you there.
Yeah, we need to heal the emotional and
Mhm.
spiritual part of us to accept the
Yes.
abundance. You
And there's
know,
been so much condemnation and guilt placed on people in the financial industry. You have these big names like Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, and I think they're great because they bring up the topic of money, but they also make people feel really bad if their method doesn't work for them. And that's the problem that I have with it. It's not one system that works for everybody, especially if
right?
you don't do that back work And each time you hit a different level of wealth, there's different things that are going to come up for it too, right? This level of wealth is unsafe, or I'm going to feel guilty or greedy having this amount of money. So many, or it's too much responsibility. And I think that's when I noticed the biggest thing, Gigi. We see it a lot when people live paycheck to paycheck, the scarcity mindset, the fears. But I've also seen it helping people manage $5 to $10 million, and they still have fears around it. So I'm like, it doesn't matter the size of money in your bank account. People still have these insecurities around money. So
Yeah.
we got to get to the core.
Right. And, part of it is, and I know, again, I go back to Bob Proctor because I've learned so much from him. We cannot outperform our self-image, what we think about ourselves. So if we think that, we can only, go out and make $100,000 a year, we'll never find a job that's going to give us 100,000, 150,000 a year, because it's what we say and what we believe about ourselves. And so what I learned through just, personal development, and also from all the degrees that I have a master's in banking, a master's in education, a real estate license, esthetician license. I got all these licenses that have in the past dictated how much money I can make.
Mm.
And so that is false information.
Yes.
Because if I can go out there, if I can use my personal experience, and now I'm speaking of from living my purpose and my calling, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I can live from that part and say, okay, I'm going to go help another woman, let her know that she can survive cancer, that is priceless.
That's huge.
To me, it's like I'm making such a big impact on helping others know that, yes, you're not the cancer. Yes, I survived and you can too, and I'm going to guide you, right? It has a whole different meaning than a plaque on the wall and a master's degree in banking and a master's degree in education. It just has so much more. So that's when we're living on purpose and, having a different understanding of why we're here. We're not here to go get these titles, because I will tell you, when COVID came around, none of those titles mattered. None of them mattered. But I was still able to work online and help others, and that mattered. So it's what we perceive of how much we can make based on how much value we give ourselves. Like, what are we worth? That's what we're making. So we have to change, again, I was taught that it's our self-image. And where do we get our self-image from? From the outside world. So it's the outside world dictating your wealth.
Yes. And I was just, as you're talking about that, I was thinking of how we chase other people's versions of success. Right. So we're not chasing what truly fulfills us. And we're going after what is the norm or what's on trend, and like the keeping up with the Joneses syndrome word too. So it's not just the image, but it's like, that's the end goal that would make me feel like I've made it. And then they get there, and like, not at all. Not at all. And they've been chasing spending money on things that really weren't that important to them. Right. And then they pivot and realize, no, I want a simpler life. Maybe I want to be able to live in a house that's paid off. It's smaller, but I have the freedom, right? I have the peace of mind that comes with it. So going back, we were talking about the women going through divorce, and we do this a lot with women going into retirement is, what is that goal? Because it's probably not what you've been working towards your entire life, or especially coming out of a relationship. It might be your spouse's or ex-spouse's version. Now you get to create your own.
So what's the biggest misconception that women have about building wealth, significant wealth?
Let's see. I would say a few of them are, I'm too old. It's too late. I don't have enough time. So women who come to me, and this happens when we have somebody who's probably first generation who went to college, put themselves through college. We've got this from a few that are first generation doctors. So they have a lot of those student loans, and they come to us in their 50s now that the loans are paid off and they're starting to make good money, but they immediately say, but I feel like it's too late for me. I never want anyone to feel that way. It's never too late. We might have to make some changes and some tweaks, but that's what I love about our process is they'll see it's not this one big overhaul that needs to happen.
Right.
It's these small intentional changes, and it starts, right? All wealth is created from the mind. It starts with here, right? Getting rid of that narrative. It's too late for me. We're already running into a time clock scarcity mode. And then these small changes with their behaviors, and I call it the compounding interest of your behaviors, that makes the biggest dent into
Correct.
creating wealth.
Correct. And it's being open to say, making that decision, like, I want change.
Yes,
It's a
exactly.
decision, right? It's a decision like, okay, it's a decision that you're going to invest in yourself first. I mean, I have to put that out there because nothing changed for me until I made a decision. I was
Mhm.
going to invest in learning about me, not learning about banking, not learning about, that came second. Learning about me, I never put that first. I did the reverse. I learned about banking and education and this and that, and learned about me last. And, I'm here to say, and many can vouch for this, we have to invest in ourselves first. Then we go after what it is that we love to do and become an expert at that.
Mhm.
And then we can serve with a full heart instead of like, oh, this is a job. Because if you're just working for a job and a company and you're not leading with purpose, you're always going to find yourself unfulfilled.
Mm. Yes.
That's, and I'll say for myself,
Mhm.
like, I jumped in so many things because there was always something missing for me,
Mhm.
right? So it's investing in themselves, and that could be being part of your membership group and just being in a community to hear. We learn from others,
Yes.
right? We learn from others. So it's putting that time in, making a decision. I'm ready for change. That's why my show is called Spark and Change, because I'm ready for change, right? You make that decision and now you open the doors versus, like you just said, I'm too old, it's too late.
Or I'm not smart enough, right? I'm not good with money. I'm not good with math. That's another big
Where is that coming from? If you
that I
have to,
hear.
yeah, where is that? Why are they saying that? Because you're right, many do say that.
Yes, and then it defaults to, well, I'm just gonna let my spouse handle the money. And they check out because, again, they're told that, or maybe I think it's a lot mansplaining happens in our industry, men talking down to women or being very condescending with
Right.
the narrative, but it's like I think it's the marketing around it, right? We're not appealing to women in the right way to give them the space. And that's why we do so much through storytelling and building relationships so that they can relate in a different narrative through that story. Now I see how it happens. Now I see how it works. When you take me through a woman's journey, it all makes sense. But when you're just showing me stats and statistics, I'm like, I don't care. How is this impacting me directly? How is it impacting my family? Is a
Right.
huge piece of it too. But I'm sure it starts with younger when, boys are better at math than women and science, and we're pushed to do other things. And then it keeps going. Even in college, we have doing a huge outreach to colleges and universities because female students aren't told that they would be good at financial planning. They're actually told to get that corporate steady, cushy, flexible job. Don't go in this direction. Like, they make amazing advisors. They're relationship focused. They're
And
heart led.
well, I was going to say, they're very heart centered, right? And when we bring emotions into play from a caring and an open, um, authentic place, the relationship just becomes so stronger, right?
Mhm.
Because you're helping someone change their lives forever and probably change their future generation and their kids' lives. So it has to be from a very heartfelt place. Like, if it's just about money and growing at 20% each year and, okay, I'm managing your portfolio, you're doing well, that's the old school. And I believe that the reason why we're shifting and we're, the universe is bringing more women into, the wealth area is to help make that connection to authenticity.
Yes. Yeah,
And,
exactly.
and helping people to heal, like you said. I mean, having that part of your program, because I know that trauma, and we all have it. When not anyone is going to escape this earth without having some trauma into their lives, is a, can stop us, absolutely stop us from entering into the world of abundance. We can look outside the world and say, okay, we got plenty of trees, plenty of grass, right? Plenty of water, uh, ocean, infinite ocean water, right? What makes us think that we don't have enough of other things? It's the mindset,
Yes.
the programming.
Mm-hmm.
So, I believe that your program makes such an impact to women's lives, and I wanted to share this with my audience because when we have peace around first ourselves, right? You had to make that connection. You stepped away from your family business, and I'm sure at some point, in back of your mind, I'm like, oh my God, did I do the right thing? Oh
Yes.
my goodness. Hey, let's be real, right? We are stepping into the unknowns, and you had to trust yourself that you were doing something purposefully. You were
Mhm.
doing it not because you were looking to make more money or, the ego. It wasn't about the ego. You're out there introducing something that was needed, because there are a lot of women now that are leading much more than before, right? We see so many leaders online just taking this step of, we want more authenticity
Mhm.
between amongst people, because there's a lot of ego that gets in the way, and I believe that stops us from actually doing the right thing,
Mhm.
helping others, right? So the wealth comes in, and your programs really help women to connect at the core, to heal at the core. And you got to have both.
Yes. Yes.
Health and wealth go together. Health and wealth. And in the word health, there's heal,
Oh, I love that.
right? So we have to heal from everything that's happened in our lives to receive the wealth, to see it. And it's like taking off one lens and putting on another.
Mhm.
And the biggest thing was to fill up our cup first. I mean, this is, the message that we're trying to send is that we have to go within first.
Yes.
Do the inner
And
work, right?
yes, and Gigi, I have to say too, and you brought this up, being that generational cycle breaker. What's
Oh,
beautiful about the work is then, and this is where we really get the women on board when we explain them, they are changing the trajectory for their children and their grandchildren and great grandchildren, right? They're setting a new standard of wealth and teaching them the skill set for that next generation to be able to get to their core, heal, expand, do all the beautiful work as well. So the goal is for that next generation to be even further ahead than us and to this new trajectory of it
yes.
being built as well. Because we're so much that we're not thinking about ourselves. We're thinking about how is this going to impact my family, our unit, our children, and so on. And that's where the wealthy families, when they learn it themselves, they then do it for the next generation and the next generation. And that's where the wealth is really created. So they learn the tools and they pass it on.
Yeah, I love that, because I came across a TikTok, I believe, one time, and where um, the gentleman was comparing like the wealthy family versus the non-wealthy family, right? And they were like, the wealthy family, for a birthday present, they're going to go out and go buy an asset and give them an asset, where the other side is going to go buy, junk, whatever, something that's not that valuable. But the wealthy mindset, they think about how to create generational wealth, because really at the end of the day, it's not just about one person.
Mhm.
It's not about just one. It's about the connection that you have to others. This is where the wealth comes in, right? It's thinking about others and continuing that path, whether it's your family, community, or whatever. It's the connection that creates the wealth. It's not just an individual, like, any portfolio you look at. It's who did you know that were there to help you make that investment.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a connection to someone. So I believe that understanding the importance of unity, connection versus competition is the key to wealth.
Yes.
To always think about the other person and the impact you're having on the other person.
Amen. I had a call with a female advisor. She's out in the West. And it was interesting. She came to this epiphany. She's like, I have enough money. And I think that's another big question. Like, what is enough? So we're not constantly chasing the next amount.
Right.
And I have enough. This is a house I want to live in. This is the amount of wealth I'm able to save and provide for my children.
Mhm.
So more money wasn't exciting to her anymore. It wasn't that driving force. But then she started to play around with it and figure out giving back is what excites her. So she created this new mission, her own mission, to be able to donate $1 million over the next 10 years. She's like, that was the spark she needed. So when you're talking about, right, we're not just thinking about ourselves. We're
Right.
thinking about how is it impacting others. So I would encourage everybody who's listening and watching, it's like, what does get you really excited about wealth, and go there and start looking there. It's probably not somebody else's version of success, which we've already talked about, but
Yes.
your own. And that is such a compelling story for a female advisor who owns her own firm to be able to express to her clients, like, look, this is my own journey. It started here. And now I realize I want to be able to give back in a very big and meaningful way. These are the steps I'm taking. Now that's intriguing those
Sure.
clients and prospects to do something similar, not necessarily to give back, but to go inward and think. We call it a money manifesto, right? What are those money values that you're able to implement, but then teach others, teach your next generation to do as well. So I thought it was such a neat story to be able to share.
I love that.
Because again, on her team, right? That I would want to be a part of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we learned from that. There's a lot of lessons to learn from that, right? And the people that you're impacting. So let's, last question, what advice would you give to a woman who's just starting her own entrepreneurship journey, right? She's saying, okay, I'm going to step into this new world. What would be one piece of advice you can give her?
Can I give two?
Great. Like,
okay. The two that came to mind immediately was one, reach out to people in your network, right? Your net worth is equal to your network, or one way or the other, right? The people, your connections are there for a reason. We are here to be able to serve and help each other. Reach out. You do not have to do it all on your own. There are so many lessons that you don't have to learn yourself by plugging into people who've already learned them too. So I would say, the power of community and collaboration. And the other one would be to be very disciplined with your thoughts. 90% of your thoughts are patterns. They're repetitive and they're ongoing. So are you giving them power and allowing them to play out? Are they serving you or not serving you? So I'd say the first step to, really embracing that higher self, the next level you and who you're stepping into, is filtering through those thoughts and replacing ones that aren't serving you anymore, because we will second guess ourselves to death being a business owner. And with our money. Trust your intuition and see, where's that thought coming from? Is it coming from somebody that isn't where you want to be? Probably not.
Right.
Or former self. It's almost like this internal abuse that we give ourselves.
Correct.
Thinking these over and over again. So I would say managing your thoughts is huge.
Very huge. Everything starts with a thought. That's what I learned from the Napoleon Hill, for sure. What's the best way someone can get a hold of you, Jessica?
Sure. thewealthboutique.com. You can go there and submit, and you can follow me on Instagram at Pink Fix My Money, because pink fixes everything in my world. Pink
Oh,
Fix
I
My
love it.
Money. I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
But thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your wisdom. I'm sure a lot of people took some golden nuggets from what you shared. And yeah, I love for people to connect with you and just, we all want more, right? But we have to do the work, and we have to do the inner work to see the results in our life. And you've done it, I've done it, and now we're sharing it with the world. So thank you again for joining us. I'm your host, Giovanna Tarderone. Until next week. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, Jessica, again.
Goodbye. Thank you so much, Gigi.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me on Sparking Change with Gigi. I hope that our episode today has ignited a spark within you to create positive change in your own life and in the world around you. To learn more about how you can become a guest or supporter, head over to sparkingchangenow.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing, sharing, and leaving a review. Your feedback is incredibly valuable to me, and it helps me to continue producing content that sparks change in each of us and the world. You can find us on various platforms, including Google Play Store, Apple App Store, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Android TV, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Thank you again for watching, and I look forward to having you join me again next week on Sparking Change with Gigi.